I pulled up a tweet from Ilhan Omar from earlier today. I guess this was from about noon today, and it says, I'll read it for you. It says, representation matters. We didn't come to Congress to be silent. We came to Congress to be a voice for families who are displaced in refugee camps and those seeking justice around the world.
So where were you when MTG was stripped of all her committees?
Good question.
Show me one of these people who are so upset right now, who are screaming, who are crying, who are losing their minds. Did they defend MTG? It's a simple question.
We're talking about seeking justice. Right?
Read that again.
Well, she was duly elected the same way as she was.
From the top, representation matters. We didn't come to Congress to be silent. We came to Congress to be a voice for families who are displaced in refugee camps and those seeking justice around the world. That's what this child survivor of war would have wanted.
No, she came to Congress to represent her Minnesota district.
That's my point. First of all, when she says we didn't come to Congress, who's we? It's Ilhan. Who's we didn't come to Congress? Who are you talking about? You and a group of co-conspirators? Like Ilhan, it's you.
Maybe she's talking about her brother.
Maybe. And also,
you mean her husband?
Her husband?
Tim, you make a good point, Tim, that Ilhan, you didn't go to Congress to be a voice for refugees around the world. You went there to represent the people of Minnesota.
In that one small part of Minnesota.
But not really. I mean, she's telling you what she came to Congress for, right?
I think she's being honest.
I think she's actually being honest there, yeah. World. I mean, I think she is being honest, and that she's taking on a greater...
Everyone in her district should now be like, oh, interesting. That's who you identify as your constituents.
What you've just identified, though, is a trend line that connects the Chinese spy story, the spy balloon story, to this, where we have to understand that the United States government, or the GAE, or whatever you want to call it, the Globalist American Empire, is run throughout with foreign interests. That we've got foreign interests controlling so much of our government. We've got so much influence from wealthy foreign governments, whether it be Iran, whether it be China, whether it be Qatar, whether it be Saudi Arabia, et cetera, that are pushing their interests through these members of Congress, because you're allowed to raise money from anywhere in the country, right? You don't just have to raise money from your own district. So you're representing not only the people who vote for you, but the people who fund your campaign.
Do Saudi princes fund PACs that fund politicians?
Probably.
What do you think?
My guess is yes. Legally, a Saudi prince is not legally allowed to give $100 million to a candidate. I would imagine.
No American citizen could do that.
Yeah,
or even $1 million.
What I always say to the campaign finance reform, like the people who spurg out on that, and you find a lot of people on the left really spurg out. They say, "Oh, we need to have this law and that law," and the money's going to get there. The money's going to get there either way. Right? The money is always going to find a way to get into these areas. And so this is a fundamental flaw with the system, that if you've got more money, not always, but if you're looking at a race like Congress, where how many people can name their congressman or member of Congress, that you're going to say, well, I've seen that guy's name a bunch, I guess I'll vote for him. Or, hey, this guy seems crazy, because you've got a well-funded smear campaign against them. And say, oh, well, I can't vote for that guy because that's the Jewish space lasers lady. I couldn't vote for her, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told me that she's the Jewish space laser person. Now, fortunately, Marjorie Taylor Greene's in a district where I don't think they're going to be listening to AOC very much, but Lauren Boebert isn't. And a well-funded opponent could come in against Lauren Boebert very easily. You saw this almost happen, right? Where I don't think people realized how close she came, something like 500 votes.
Yeah, extremely
close. This is always going to be a problem with the American model of government.
Because of the House of Representatives can be bought off or bribed by corporate people that want to give their laws, so the representatives pass their laws into the Senate. If there were no representatives, if this was all like direct representation where you'd have to bribe 700,000 of us if you want our district to vote a certain way. Not going to happen. Not likely. Not as likely as one person. They would still pay lawyers to pass laws into the Senate. So it's either like the richest people are always going to dominate politics, or the most intelligent and able to write laws could possibly. I could see like a well-educated populace could become more valuable than the monetary system. But what happens is the people that are rich will buy the intelligent people off, the lawyers and stuff, and they'll find the smartest lawyers to write the best laws for them. And then it becomes like a bidding war. I kind of agree with you. I don't see a way out.
There's a reason that when we talk about Davos, so Davos just ended, and this is sort of the meeting of the globalist American empire, where they sit and sort of cackle around about what they're going to be doing. And there's an interesting take on that, because I think people realize that it's it's tough to put a specific word to it, but we understand that when you see the AOC performative art and the theater from Rashida Tlaib, we realize that these aren't the actual people that are making the decisions. These aren't the people that are actually ruling over us. These aren't the people that are setting the agenda. And you're seeing that more and more even in the Biden administration as they're removing longtime allies and confidants and advisors like Ron Klain, and then getting in people like Jeff Zients, who's a Bain Capital uniparty guy, the same way that he's sort of like, the Democrat side of Bain, the way that Romney was the Republican side of Bain, but they're really the same company, right? It's actually a perfect example for us to understand that this is how the uniparty works. So they're able to get their people in. And even the Biden administration itself, nobody sits there and talks about the incredible Biden campaign and the mastery of the this name. Who was Biden's campaign manager?
John Podesta. I have no idea.
Right, we don't even know. Right,
idea.
So
whoever Hillary's was, I guess.
Obama's campaign managers went on to have some of the most successful media careers. They run some of the most successful podcasts on the left right now. With the Biden campaign, who did they launch? There's nothing. There's absolutely, because people understand that was predominantly the power structure deciding to pluck him up and bring him in as president. And we call this the globalist American empire.
They said, stay alive, Joe Biden. All we need is your corporeal form.
That's right.
That's exactly right. That was a news article. What was it? The Atlantic that wrote there, something like that?
Yeah.
Stay alive, Joe Biden. Let me see if I can find this.
But I think what we're seeing now, though, and this is why, to go back to 101 Constitution, I'm
Atlantic. There you go.
The Atlantic. Same thing, right. And what date did that come out?
This is March 24th, 2020.
March.
Democrats.
So he wasn't even
Democrats need little from the front runner beyond his corporeal presence.
It's crazy.
They were right.
And that's pretty much all we have.
Saying you will not have a president. You will have a figurehead in an old retiree.
A vessel.
Yep.
And that's
we need someone to sit in the chair, but he's not going to really do it.
But I think what we're seeing right now with the classified documents coming out, with Hunter Biden very stupidly admitting that the laptop was his.
That was amazing.
Threatening to file lawsuits against those of us that were spreading it in 20. Which please do, by the way, please sue me, Hunter Biden. I'd be more than happy to get discovery in a lawsuit with Hunter Biden. So please, Hunter Biden, have your lawyers contact my lawyers. Sue me right now.
I figured out Biden's campaign manager was Greg Schultz.
Who's that?
What's he up to now?
You see what I mean? That's exactly my point. It's kind of the same way that when we were talking about the current thing earlier, that if you weren't old enough to remember the sort of post 9/11 era, we were, suddenly we became experts in the Middle East, and you had to know who's the best prime minister for Afghanistan. Is it Ashraf Ghani, or is it Karzai? Who should be the next leader of Iraq? And we must topple Saddam Hussein because Saddam Hussein is the greatest threat to world peace right now. The same way you've got people talking about toppling Iran tomorrow. But here we are, a couple, 2 decades later, and nobody talks about Iraq anymore. We know the Taliban retook Afghanistan. Nobody even mentions them because you're not told to mention them.
I thought that the other day. I was like, all these people that are like, hey, we want Russians out of Ukraine. It is not right for a country to invade a smaller foreign country.
Yeah.
Where were they when they were talking about pulling our troops out of Iraq? Like when the Americans, we're still invading Iraq.
Iraq, Libya. We still have troops in Syria right now.
So get them out. Get them out. Speak up about it.
That's why I hate to bring it up again. But when Hassan did his response to me and he's like, the military-industrial complex is bad, but we should be in Ukraine. It's like, what do you think that is? What do you think all of this has always been? But that's an excellent point, Ian, that all these people are like, Russia, what did Kamala Harris say? Russia is a big country, and they invaded a little country, and that's why it's bad. It's like, oh, well, the United States is a big country, and we invaded a couple little countries. Was that bad?
I will actually give Kamala Harris credit on that for a little bit, because I try to find things that I like about the other side, and it makes it harder that way, right? You have to be easy to just rip on them. But she actually does have a point that you don't really hear that when people are talking about the strategic military calculus of, well, we're going to send more tanks. Well, okay, but how many tanks? Well, like 15. Okay, well, how many tanks does Russia have? Well, they have 1,200. Right. So what are your 15? What are 15? And Zelensky says this all the time. He said it on an interview with Trey Yingst at Fox News today, that he said, well, you're going to send 15 tanks. They have thousands of tanks. What difference is this really going to make to us? Are you going to send F-16s? But then if you send F-16s, who's going to fly them? How are you going to train someone? What are the logistics for that? What is the maintenance for that? And then keep in mind, they say, okay, well, we'll build a maintenance facility. Well, yeah, well, guess what the next cruise missile is going to fly into, right? You don't have to take out all the tanks, just take out the maintenance facility. We've been talking about the collapse of complex systems. Well, when you're in wartime, you just amplify that by about 100. Imagine, you can't find the right lug nut because, oh, wait, American tanks use the conventional system, but European tanks use the metric system, right? So where you're going to find the right pieces for a Leopard that fit in Abrams, et cetera, et cetera. All of these issues that come into play.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.